Hey, guys, what is up? Today we're diving deep into a world of messed up science experiments, like seriously messed up. We're talking about the kind of stuff that keeps you up at night, wondering if there are actual monsters hiding in lab coats. I'm talking about 5 of the most unethical human experiments in history that will leave you shook. Make sure you like and subscribe because things are about to get dark. Okay, so imagine being told you had bad blood, right? That's what happened to a group of black men in Tuskegee, Alabama back in 1932. These men, most of whom were poor sharecroppers, had syphilis. But instead of helping them, the US government decided to use them as guinea pigs in a study that lasted for 40 years. 40 years! They wanted to see what would happen if syphilis went untreated. Can you believe that? They withheld treatment, even after penicillin became widely available as a cure in the 1940s. They let these men suffer, all in the name of science. Many of them died, some passed the disease on to their wives and children. It's a horrifying example of racism and medical malpractice, and honestly, it makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about it. The Tuskegee syphilis study is a dark stain on the history of medicine, and we need to remember it so we never let anything like that happen again. This one is like straight out of a psychological thriller movie, but it actually happened. In 1971, a Stanford University professor named Philip Zimbardo wanted to study the psychological effects of power and authority. So he created a mock prison in the basement of the Stanford Psychology building. He recruited a bunch of college students, perfectly normal guys, and randomly assigned them to be either guards or prisoners. And that's when things got really, really messed up. The guards, given uniforms, sunglasses and billy clubs, quickly became abusive and authoritarian. The prisoners were subjected to humiliation, sleep deprivation and psychological torture. The experiment had to be shut down after only 6 days because it was so out of control. It's terrifying how quickly the guards transformed into cruel and sadistic figures. Chapter 3. Okay, buckle up because this one is like something out of a sci-fi horror film. In the 1950s and 60s, during the Cold War, the CIA was obsessed with mind control. Enter Project MK-Ultra, a top-secret program that involved all sorts of messed-up experiments on unsuspecting people. We're talking about giving people LSD, other hallucinogenic drugs, hypnosis, and even electroshock therapy, all in an attempt to crack the code of mind control and create the perfect spies or assassins. They wanted to see if they could erase memories, implant false ones, or even program people to kill. These experiments were often conducted on vulnerable people like prisoners, drug addicts, and even mental health patients without their knowledge or consent. The CIA destroyed most of the MK-Ultra records, so we'll never know the full extent of the horrors that took place. Chapter 4. This one is just heartbreaking. In 1939, a speech pathologist named Wendell Johnson from the University of Iowa decided to conduct an experiment on 22 orphan children to prove his theory about the causes of stuttering. They divided the children into 2 groups. Half received positive speech therapy, while the other half were subjected to negative reinforcement and belittling for every little speech imperfection. They told these kids they were stutterers and constantly criticized their speech patterns. Can you imagine the trauma these kids went through? It's sickening. The experiment was kept secret for decades because of the ethical outrage it would cause. And for a good reason, it's a horrifying example of how adults can inflict lasting psychological damage on children. Chapter 5. This experiment will make you question everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. In 1961, Stanley Milgram, a psychologist at Yale University, wanted to understand why people follow orders, even when those orders go against their morals. Participants were told they were taking part in a learning experiment. They were instructed to deliver electric shocks to another person, hidden behind a screen, every time they got an answer wrong. The shocks weren't real, but the actors pretended they were. As the experiment progressed, the intensity of the shocks increased, and the person behind the screen screamed in pain and begged them to stop. The participants were visibly distressed, but most of them continued to obey the experimenter's orders, even when they thought they were inflicting serious harm on another human being. Outro. These experiments, as messed up as they were, taught us a lot about the dark side of human nature and the importance of ethical boundaries in research. We can't just use people as guinea pigs without their consent or inflict unnecessary harm in the name of science. We need to remember these experiments, learn from them, and vow to never let history repeat itself. Let me know in the comments which experiment you found the most shocking and why. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel for more deep dives into the dark and twisted side of history. Stay curious, my friends, but stay woke.